Hi y'all, I'm V, and this is Uncle Snap. Welcome to our YouTube channel. We've been thinking. We're going to take this first video to just take the opportunity and tell y'all a little bit about our background, because what we're going to be doing on our channel is discussing a range of topics and giving our unique perspectives and finding common ground among a range of different topics, from spirituality, religion, politics, astrology, and everything in between, everything you can think of happenings around the world. So we're just going to see where this goes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Uncle Snap here start and tell you a little bit about himself and where his handle comes from.
Well, I can't tell you where my handle comes from.
Okay.
That's a secret.
Okay.
But now I want to be up front with everybody from the outset. I happen to be a very wealthy man. I inherited this wealth from a decades-old family business. So I've never really done anything. Didn't have to. So, and don't plan to start. So yeah, I want to get that. Well, and I have done something.
I was about to say, I wouldn't say that you haven't done anything.
Yeah, no, I've actually
Don't.
I was actually involved in the family business, but pretty much all I did was they would give me this briefcase and tell me to take it to this address and give it to this man called Guido Sarducci.
Mm-hmm.
And no,
This is a joke.
I'm yes.
I know you're pulling my leg.
Look, I knew all the time that the man's name wasn't Guido Sarducci. You know what I mean? So that was a joke. So no, that whole thing is a joke. So
Y'all gotta watch him.
Yeah. No, seriously, I'm born in Alabama, raised in South Alabama. Some might refer to it as L.A., Lower Alabama. That's an old joke. But I had a good educational upbringing, considering where I was from and what the teachers had to work with. But I've really just lived a life of primarily being self-employed most of the time. I had a couple of stints with in the corporate world. Didn't like that much, but it was part of the process. So I've done a little bit of everything, from logging to managing businesses to selling insurance to working on heaters and air conditioners, and managed to eke out a decent living and find myself in some degree of financial comfort, and I'm blessed to have reached a point in my life where I could even consider doing something like they and I are doing, and have time to do it, and I guess reached an age where I feel like I may have some degree of life experiences and wisdom that I may be able to share with other people, whether you get anything out of it or not. It makes me feel good about myself to be, espousing wisdom. But anyway, that's pretty much it, actually. And we just kind of got to talking about doing this, and I have a lot on my mind from time to time about many things as they brought up, and
I enjoy a good intellectual conversation.
yes,
So.
yes, yes, and I do as well. Yes, and can you go find me somebody? That's funny right there. No, really bright young woman here. But anyway,
I think sometimes in today's world it can be hard to find those deep connections.
Absolutely.
Or people that you feel comfortable to have those kinds of conversations with.
Absolutely. Well, it's
So we're lucky.
Yeah.
I didn't even say he is my unlikely co-host on this channel because he's my father-in-law. So yeah, that's how we're here.
Yeah, praise God. I'm also a Christian, and certainly not a theologian, or I don't even study the Bible like I should. But
yes, we are not experts or biblical scholars
no. Disclaimer
on any of these subjects.
Disclaimer,
Okay,
yes.
These are just, like I said, our unique perspectives and our opinions, and you can take what you can and leave what you can't, as I like to say. If you can't use what we have to say, then you can leave that part, and any tidbits that you find helpful, take them with you. So
absolutely,
there you go.
Yeah. So they give us some background on you. This ought to be good. No, I'm just joking.
I am originally from Texas, so I like to call myself a Tejana, which means a Texan.
Oh, Tejana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, extra silent.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a J.
It's a J.
Yes, in Spanish, Texas is spelled.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
See how smart she is. Yeah.
So I'm from Texas originally, and my ethnic background is I'm Hispanic. I'm Mexican American. Yes, both of my parents were born here and are citizens. I say that as a disclaimer because I can't tell y'all how many times in my life people have asked me if my parents were American citizens, or
really?
If I myself had a green card, or if I was born here, or it's just.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah, it is. And see, that's something that you have never had to experience.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, yeah. So I'm just putting that out there. Yes, my parents were born here. We like to say that the border crossed us because Texas, little history lesson. So we talk about a little history real quick. Texas was a part of Mexico originally before, the United States of America. So we all did learn that, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
And so when the border was drawn for the United States, some Mexicans were asked to stay in Texas, especially when it became a republic of itself, to stay there.
Right.
And so the border kind of got drawn around us, yes, around where my family came from. So,
interesting.
Yes.
I didn't. That's a perspective I never.
And a lot of families there are like that, where we have a lot of. I do have families still, that live in Mexico. My great grandparents, they all lived in Mexico, and I have an aunt who has a home, here and there. She has dual citizenship and stuff like that. So.
See, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a little bit of background on where I come from. Yes, but I'm from South. I was born in South Texas, San Juan, Texas. That's where I'm from, and we transplanted here to Mississippi whenever I was going into the 6th grade, which was quite a culture shock. But we can get into that later because that could be its own whole story.
Yeah.
And I grew up probably upper middle class most of my younger years, and then my mother was divorced when I was young. Her and my father divorced when I was very young, and I had a stepdad. She remarried when I was 6, so he was a part of my life for a long time, but they ended up divorced again, and my mom, after we moved here, found herself a single mom. So I did know, we did struggle here and there, and so I did, I've experienced a lot of different kind of perspectives, honestly.
Right.
So in my life, and I have always worked. I worked until recently. I've worked in the restaurant business, mostly waiting tables. I've done a little bit of accounting work for an accountant. And that's pretty much, I guess, my work background and my geographical background.
Talk about your you have I don't want to get too deep, but you have an interest in astrology, and if you might want to briefly, speak on that, or not. I don't
astrology.
Know. It's something.
You mean that I'm into astrology?
Yeah.
Yes, it is something that It's something I've always been drawn to since I was very young. Honestly, just the stars in general. When I was younger, living in Texas, real quick, just a little story. My papa had a van. We lived with my stepdad's parents, so I lived in a home with 4 adults.
Yeah.
So that's why I say we lived an upper middle class life, and I was very spoiled. Because I was an only child in a house full of 4 people, you know. So I was basically like a little adult. I was stuck to my papa's side. He was my best friend. But he had one of those vans that have the ladders on the back,
Yeah.
And we had a carport, and so he parked his van under the carport all the time. Well, when you climbed on top of the van, there was about that much space between the top of the van and the carport to get on the roof.
Yeah.
So when I was little, they would let me when I was like 6 and 7, I would climb up that ladder and I'd get up on top of the roof. I remember I asked for a telescope actually for my 7th Christmas. I remember that because that was probably one of the best Christmases of my childhood.
Wow.
I think we all have a best Christmas story. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some people, when you were a kid, when you were young, when you got something that you just really wanted. That was one thing. I was a closet nerd, y'all. I also asked for a telescope that year. A microscope, I mean. So I wanted a microscope and a telescope and a chemistry set. And anyways, back to my story. So I'd climb up on top of the roof at night, and I would just lay there and look at the stars, and they just drew me in. It was just this wonder. I don't know. So I've always kind of dabbled in astrology, but here in the last couple of years, I have dived more into it, and I do get in. I am going through my birth chart. I do know I am an Aries sun sign with a Gemini rising and a Capricorn moon. Don's a Taurus.
Goodness, yeah.
I don't know the rest of his chart, but I would be very interested. And maybe that's a whole episode that we could do where we talk about our charts. That would be cool.
I'd be interested in that. I never really ascribed to the whole astrology thing, but then again, I've
you never passively read your horoscope, those, the general horoscopes.
Right,
yeah,
that's what's
yeah.
up. But one thing I do find some credence in it, the whole thing, is that I know, in older days before the modern ages, that's what people were astronomers, because they didn't have that was their
culture throughout history.
That was their telephone. That was their.
They planted by the stars, the moon. They followed. the cycles. I mean, you can find, just about in every civilization, ruins that we have found, there's some sort of sun clock mark, something like that, or something that was telling them the phases of the moon and helping them keep track of astrological events. Definitely.
And and I don't know where, but in the Bible, it's in Genesis, I think, God hung the moon and the stars, and
the stars are for signs.
Yeah, for seasons and signs.
And signs, okay.
Which, and I didn't really realize
so you might read
until recently.
Do you read the King James Version? Do you read the King James
Version?
Okay.
We need to look at that, I guess, sometimes see what that is.
I generally read the American Standard.
It's for seasons.
And signs.
A day, it's
what it says in the King James.
For
seasons and signs,
And the signs, in my older days, the signs thing has kind of, what does,
Right.
Why would you not look up there? Because that's where signs will be.
Exactly. And we live in a cyclical,
Right.
Life is a cycle, and everything's a cycle. The seasons, the moon.
Right. Yeah, so I certainly, would not discount any of that out of hand, because it is God's movie playing out in front of us.
Once upon a time, astrology and the sciences were not separate. They were considered a science, and somewhere along the way, they got separated.
Probably.
Like I said, I'm not an expert on that. I've just from things I've watched and seen and read.
Yeah. Okay, so what else?
What kind of did you grow up in a home where you went to church a lot?
Yes.
You did.
Well,
did y'all go? Did you go through phases or?
Went through phases, pretty much. It was.
But God was always present in your home, a higher power.
Absolutely.
Because in my older age, as I get older, to me, going to church does not equate, God being present in your life necessarily.
No, absolutely. So, I agree. Although that.
Not that there aren't benefits,
right.
to fellowshipping with.
Right. Well, that's one thing, when I read stuff on Facebook or wherever, and one thing I think I see in people is that finding the right church seems to be more of an issue. There's actually being more of a distinction made between a church and the right church for you.
Right, yeah.
And of course, I would blame, any church I would lean toward would be obviously one that was conservative, but not necessarily, fire and brimstone. I would not want to. I wouldn't. A conservative church is what I would be looking for.
Do you think that maybe that's part of the problem and why people feel like they can't find the right church, because we're using the wrong scale, where we want a church that matches our conservative views on this plane, when instead of our spiritual, how we feel, to how it feeds our spirit, you know what I mean? What we get out of it.
Yeah, searching for a church that reflects our spirit, our conservative views, and by the same token, one for some people who expresses their liberal views. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to, everything is tainted. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
everything has been tainted by man.
Yes.
Or the devil. And that's the way evil operates. Is, I think, one of the main ways is by division. You know, by it's just there's a steady.
Well, see, and you use the terms liberal and conservative, which speaks to me that there's a high influence of politics in our
absolutely
religion. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
that they're very.
And that's man-made.
Right.
You know
yes.
what I mean? That's
right.
like,
that's something that we have socially created ourselves.
Right, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
We can't just, you know.
As a society, we've manifested that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a distortion of God's word, I think. And where you might, you know, otherwise, the people in the olden days that sat around the campfire and looked up at the stars, you know what I mean? They weren't trying to figure out how to split off and be another denomination or another group of astronomers or astrologers, or, you know, if they, back in the day, if they had some sort of, you know,
really, I feel like they were connected to the Creator far more than we have been able to become as a society, as a whole.
Absolutely, yeah, and of course, and you know, and of course, history goes back thousands of years, so it's just, and that's a whole other.
And while we're on that topic, I would like to recognize, you know, that we do live on Native American land, you know, originally.
Here we go.
I'm just saying, I would like to acknowledge that as someone who does have Native American descent.
No, me,
me as
well. And you know, a lot. It's funny you say that. I've had I had somebody do a genealogy thing on me and my family, you know, and of course, when I was giving the lady the information, and it wasn't real extensive. It just, you know, went back, you know, a couple, three or four generations, 4 or 5, whatever. And I, you know, it was, I was giving her the information that I could give her, and I was, you know, I would tell her that, you know, there's some I got some Indian in me, you know, and you know, got some Indian blood. You know, great grandma so and so was a herb doctor, and she was Creek Indian, and all this, you know, and when I told the lady that, she said, well, she kind of did like that. So yeah, okay, I hear that all the time, and it's not really true. Probably the white European trying to somehow
change the narrative, or, you know, bring possibly that culture along with them, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure it happened. Yeah.
You know, and that, you know, and that spiritual culture, as well as their customs and all of that, you know, got brought along in some way, and somehow we, you know, managed to claim it somehow, probably so we could bastardize it. But that's, excuse my language, but that's what happens is, through time, any pure anything pure gets bastardized. You know, man can't leave it alone.
Right.
You know, man, you know, you can't just let God's love be God's love.
Right.
You know, we've got to,
to put our ideals on it and how it should be followed, and this should be
over here. Yeah, this one veers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, it's and that's a shame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And back to the astrology, astronomy thing. And the people of olden days. It's just maybe they had to deal with that to some degree, but certainly not. I don't think to the degree we do today. You know what I mean? They were able to be more of one mind and one spirit,
right,
and one body, if you will. Yeah. I'll shut up. So.
No.
Why do we keep getting off on this deep stuff like this?
Because it's good conversation.
Well, it is, yeah. But
when
you start talking about religion, like you can do that till day after tomorrow and not find a stopping place.
That's true.
So,
that's true.
But anyway,
and we weren't really talking about religion.
No,
we're just kind of bouncing around.
Well, spirituality.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Well, I'm worn out.
Are you done?
Have I told you I'm a busy man?
You have.
Yeah.
Y'all,
yeah. Oh, yeah. You want to kind of try to wrap this up somehow?
Yeah.
Do you have words for that? Wrapping up words?
You have wrapping up words?
Yeah.
Well, if you made it this far in the video, we're glad you're here.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Please give us a like or comment, subscribe. Like I said, we're going to be posting videos weekly and sporadically because that's when these conversations happen. This is organic. It's not, there's no script. We just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just being us,
We've been thinking. So we just like to get together and talk about...
Tell them right quick about the spelling of the thinking. We've been thinking.
Well, that was your idea. So
That's my South Alabama accent is, I've been thinking about this. What do you think? And so... she, being from Mississippi, has some ability to comprehend a South Alabama accent. So, and I just said one night we'll call it, we've been thinking, and which means we're thinking, but the way I pronounced it would be with an A, so we'd be thinking and thanking God and.
Thanking you.
And thanking you, and thanking
each other.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And for me, it kind of meant, where I'm at in my spiritual walk right now, I'm definitely trying to live a life of constant gratitude, like all the time, which to me, the older I get, is kind of what I feel like the Bible verse, to pray without ceasing is kind of what that kind of means, because prayer isn't necessarily, having to sit and,
right. Yeah.
So
interesting you bring that up because that's it's kind of a lifestyle. It's kind of a it's called the praise cure, where if you see it, or something, the praise cure. Like if you want to pray for something in your life, somebody else's life, whatever, he knows what you want.
Right, you don't have to list it all for.
Right, yeah. It's just and it's called the praise cure, where you just, rather than continually ask and beg, you just praise God and praise Jesus and the blood of Jesus, and you just keep praising.
Right.
And that is your prayer.
Right.
And your praise.
Yes.
All at one time, because he knows what you want.
That's basically the law of attraction.
The what?
It's basically the law of attraction.
Well, yeah.
Because you can't, you know what I'm saying, like, there was a video that, or a documentary, I guess, that you would call, came out and got popular a couple years back, and it was called The Secret, and it's talking about the law of attraction. And it's basically saying that, like, when you constantly think about what you don't want, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I wish my husband didn't talk to me this way, or
Right.
I wish this wasn't like that. That the universe, God, you know,
Right.
the higher power, it doesn't know necessarily, there's no distinction between, like, that you do or you don't. It just knows that that's what you're constantly thinking about. So you
Right.
just attract more of your husband talking to you that way.
Makes all the sense in the world.
So what they're basically saying is that you sort of manifest what you want in the way that you sit for a little while. If it's 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it is you start with a day, a little bit at a time, and you imagine whatever it is that you're wanting. If it is your husband to speak to you better, or a car, or whatever,
Right.
a new car, a new job, you sit and you imagine and you feel what it would be like if that was already happening right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you
Right.
feel, like, really feel it, and feel that joy and that happiness that it would bring you.
Right.
You know, if it's a car, imagine you're sitting in it, you know, with the wind flying through as much as you can. Just close, you know, like I said, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever.
And if you wanted something for someone else.
Right. Precisely. Yes.
There's something that was, you had a family member, something you were
Right.
concerned about, or, you know, that would.
Yes. For someone to get
rather
better,
than-
imagine them well,
Right.
instead of just worrying about them being sick or
just continuing to beg in prayer. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Praise.
Yes, because
That's
this
kind of
thing
the
I've never
same
heard
thing.
you. Yeah, what'd you call it? The praise
The praise cure.
praise cure. I'd never heard that term or that.
Yeah, I just heard it a few months ago. And
Okay.
It made it made a lot of sense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because that's kind of like a mental. It's kind of like a spiritual reap what you sow.
Right.
Almost, you know, that's the. You know that. Through that
Right.
praise,
Yes. If you're putting
loving
out
God,
negativity, all you're going to get back is negativity. You know what I mean? It's
Absolutely,
just it's the law of attraction.
Right.
You attract what you give out.
Right.
So if you go out, pardon my language, with a shitty attitude, people are going to be giving you back shitty attitudes.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you.
Yeah, that's pretty easy to see this day and time.
Yeah, and you know, and it says in the video, and I tested it. It was like, because running late has always been a thing of mine.
Imagine that, yeah. But okay, yeah.
Although I've read that people who run late, you know, it's just that we're really optimistic. We think that we can get more done in a smaller amount of time, and that we actually have more.
What? No, go ahead. No, we got to wrap this up.
Yeah, we do.
I told you I'm a busy man? I'm a busy man.
But in the video, it said, it was talking about running late specifically, and how when you're running late, you know, if all you're doing is worrying about how late you're going to be, then you catch every red light and you get behind a slow person. Now, so you just test it in little ways like that. So I started doing little things like that, and instead of freaking out when I was running late, I would just go with it. I'd just stay calm, and I'd get green lights, and I started, you know, and instead of being 10 minutes late, I was only like 2 minutes late.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it really did. You could test it with parking spots. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
And maybe that's a whole nother. We could do a whole video about stuff like that. But
we got to find a lighter subject next time.
Sure, yeah.
Or not.
And if there's anything that any viewers that might be out there that y'all want to hear us discuss or talk about or hear our opinions about, and we'd love to hear y'all's, like I said, down in the comments, then yeah, just drop it down in the comments and we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. Yeah. All right. Bye.
We'll think about it and then we'll talk about it.
We'll think about it and then we'll talk about it. Yeah. All right. Bye, y'all. Love y'all.
Love you.
Bye-bye.